So what is a Ponzi scheme? So we all know what a Ponzi scheme is, Bernie Madoff being the most famous, and that's where you use other investors' money to return to old investors. So you start off with 1 million of funds, and you say you're going to give a 10% return, but you can't possibly do that. So you attract other funds to then pay back that guy 10%. And then you need more funds to now you've got 2, 3 people to pay back. So you need even more funds to go and pay them that returns. Now, obviously, if they don't take out the money, it can last much, much longer. It's only when they find, people start asking for their returns. So as happened to Bernie Madoff in 2008. The crash happened, people needed cash, and obviously he had no cash, and so therefore the whole thing collapsed. Now, Bernie Madoff is a joke because the real Ponzi scheme is the fiat currency Ponzi scheme that we're currently living in. And I'll explain why. The whole point of this whole fiat Ponzi scheme is based on debt. 97% of money created is debt, is made by banks, not by the central banks, not by cash in your hand, but when banks create debt, they create money. Okay, I've gone through this before, but very quickly, whenever you go to a bank and say, I would like a loan, they type it in as a liability. An asset on their book, because a loan is an asset. They type it as an asset. They give you the money, the $1 million or whatever. And then when you pay it back, that for them is a liability, and it whittles down that asset that they had. So they create it on their books, on their computer. They're the ones who make the money. Now, what's been happening is no one's been lending, right? Banks aren't lending. People don't want to borrow money, even at 0% interest rates, even with a housing boom. Companies don't want to borrow money, even with corporate debt through the roof. Everyone is so, at the end of their tether. Everyone is so high in debt. Governments are so high in debt. Corporations are so high in debt. People are so high in debt. There's no more new debt entering the system. That means that's a big problem because when you create a fiat money system, what is debt? Now, let's go with the example again of the bank creating $1 million. They don't expect $1 million back. They expect $1,100,000 back. Where are you going to get that 100,000? They've only just created $1 million. They typed in $1 million and that's been created. Great. Where are you going to get the 100,000 from? So that has to be when someone else creates $1 million and then you manage to earn it by doing services and then you can pay back the bank. But what is that? That is a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme being, I need more creation of money in order to pay back interest. And the problem is there's so much interest and outstanding debt that basically, if people start claiming that money and people start going, oh, you know what, we're fearful in the market, we want all the money we've lent out, we want it back, the whole system immediately crashes. And that's why the Fed had to come in 2008. And that's why in 2020, the Fed basically had to print out 25% of all dollars in circulation because there was no banks lending, no one was lending. So the Fed had to step in and create this fake money to allow people to pay, to pay back money or to pay interest on stuff. So we see here, the thing is a giant Ponzi scheme. Now, the worst bit about it is currently we have China. Now, China's construction market is the biggest bubble of all time. You think US stocks is big. China's construction, building, real estate is worth $62 trillion. It's 25% of their GDP. Oh, China makes all the goods we use. Oh, that's why they're so successful. No. Doesn't employ that many people. In a factory mainly automated, it's not employing that many people. What does employ people is construction. You cannot automate that. You cannot get a robot to do it. You need people to actually create it. And that's why you've got ghost cities everywhere. And so that we have $62 trillion market that needs constantly more money coming in to cover debts and to pay off old debts and to pay off the interest. But currently at the moment, because of Evergrande, and Evergrande was $300 billion in debt, but all of them are all up to the hilt in debt, and no one is lending them money. So obviously the Chinese central bank will have to print it out and will bail them out. But I'm saying that again further dilutes all the money in circulation. That further makes everyone poorer. Effectively, whenever they print money, they make you poorer. And I've said this a million times. No one cares. No one goes out to fight. No one, protests, cottage cheese protest or BLM. But, the fact that every time they print, they are stealing from you, right? Effectively, no one cares about. So effectively, China will have to do that. They'll have to print and bail them out, but that doesn't help anything because you bail them out in a Ponzi scheme. You reduce the value of money, essentially, in the economy, and that reduces real consumption. So obviously, value terms, because of inflation, the thing goes up. So previously it was $10, now it's $15. So corporate earnings look like, wow, they made 50% more profit. What? Well, they've not really made 50% more profit. That money is useless now because their costs have also gone up 50%, and everything's gone up 50%. So it's not a valid metric. Where do I see this going? I think China will stabilize that debt, but the high growth that they had already been cut from 7.5% to 5% this year, which for them is basically recessionary. And all over the globe, it's going to be very low real growth, more inequality, more money going to the rich, the poor getting much, much poorer. And as I've said many times before, neo-feudalism. But what you have to understand is it's a giant Ponzi scheme. It needs new money created the whole time. It needs new money to feed old money. And with all Ponzi schemes, they normally collapse. But when you're in charge of the printing press, that is impossible. All you do is just make people poorer, as in Venezuela, Weimar Germany, wherever you want. That's all they're going to do. Just make everyone poorer, essentially.